In a town nestled between hills and history, people often spoke of a boy named Kabir. They said he had never been the loudest in the room, nor the one to chase attention. Those who knew him recalled how he wore no designer clothes, carried no flashy gadgets, and never posted about his grades. He seemed content blending into the background, but those who observed closely noticed that behind the silence was someone with rare depth. Kabir's father, a humble librarian, was said to have instilled in him a simple principle, that one's work should do the talking, not one's voice. The man wasn't known for speeches or displays, but people often saw him cleaning books and fixing torn pages with care and devotion. Kabir had grown up around stories, not social status, and those stories shaped him more than any social media trend could have. People in his school often commented that Kabir was too quiet. Some assumed he lacked confidence, while others thought he was simply uninteresting. His classmates, it was said, frequently made fun of his calm demeanor and simple style. Some had even whispered that Kabir would never stand out because he never tried to. But while others flaunted their talents or practiced charm, Kabir had been quietly practicing something else, learning to code, reading philosophy, and writing essays that no one saw. He had never argued with those who mocked him. Instead, he had kept to himself, quietly preparing. Teachers eventually began to notice that although Kabir didn't speak much, when he did, his words carried weight. Once, when asked to speak in a debate titled, "Success is Meant to be Displayed," he had stood up and shared an insight that silenced the entire room. He had compared success to bamboo, explaining that just like the plant grows underground for years before suddenly rising tall, real success too was silent until it blossomed. That moment, people said, was the first time the class truly listened to Kabir. Over the years, the more vocal students began to burn out. Some got into trouble, others couldn't back their showmanship with substance. Kabir, however, was said to have kept building, slowly, steadily. When college results were announced, people learned that he had earned 5 scholarships, but he had told no one until the principal made the announcement himself. Those who remembered him from school often recalled how even after such news, Kabir didn't post about it or talk about it in public. He had simply smiled and continued preparing for what came next. When Kabir moved to the city for college, some thought he might change, that he might finally embrace the competitive, showy lifestyle. But observers noted that he remained true to his roots. He studied, worked part-time at a library, and spent weekends teaching underprivileged children. It was said that he spent more time with books and ideas than with parties or promotions. One day, a professor happened to come across an article on the university blog that had no name, but was written with striking depth and clarity. The professor had been so intrigued that he tracked down the author, who turned out to be Kabir. When asked why he hadn't added his name, Kabir was said to have replied that if the words were true, they didn't need an identity attached. That professor, impressed not only by Kabir's words but by his humility, had offered him a research internship in Europe. Kabir had accepted the opportunity with gratitude, not fanfare. Those who worked with him abroad spoke of how Kabir never sought the spotlight. He didn't dominate meetings, but when he spoke, everyone listened. He became known not for being everywhere, but for making every moment count. He was eventually invited to speak at a youth conference, and people later remembered how his talk, on "The Power of Quiet Leadership," had moved the audience to silence, then to applause. Later, when Kabir returned to his hometown, he didn't come with cameras or crowds. He simply started a leadership center for local youth, not to make headlines, but to make a difference. Those who visited said that he taught not only how to succeed but how to stay grounded. He reminded them that true leadership wasn't loud, it was lasting. Years later, when asked why he still avoided public praise, Kabir was said to have smiled and explained that when a tree bears fruit, it bends, it doesn't boast.